Support for Steppin Out comes in part from the Kristovich family in honor of Mary Lou and Bill Kristovich.
Good evening. I'm Poppy Tooker, and welcome to Steppin Out, spotlighting the New Orleans arts and entertainment scene. Seated at our table tonight, John Kemp, columnist for Louisiana Life magazine. Hey, John.
Hey, Poppy.
Dickie Brennan, owner of the famed Dickie Brennan and Company, which includes the Palace Cafe, the Bourbon House, his steakhouse, and Tableau. Hey, Dickie.
Hello, Poppy.
I'm so tickled. And Alan Smason, Alan Smason of theatercriticism.com. What a mouthful you are, Alan.
Sorry about that.
Peggy will return next week. And first, however, we have to say big congratulations to Commander's Palace on their 125th anniversary. What an occasion that was on Sunday and Monday, wasn't it, Dickie?
What a milestone. So
Everybody, it seemed, in the whole world, in the American food scene, came in to celebrate with us. Drew Nearpont, Danny Meyer, Barbara Lynch. We've got some pictures that they sent, and I'd love to see the pictures and see what we think about that. What I really loved was the big surprise when it was lunchtime. Look, there's Emerald and Tori, and there's Donald Link. That was an incredible panel. And there, look at T. T just really pulled that off incredibly, didn't she? She was amazing, she and Lolly. And then look at Mrs. Chase, who made it out to the event and really made it special, didn't she?
absolutely.
But Dickie, how about Bella Blue? There's no way better to invite you to lunch than have the burlesque dancers come out and tell you where to go find your lunch, huh?
Well, we're going to give that credit to my cousin T.
She's pretty clever like that. And mentioning T, in fact, they have continued Restaurant Week at
Right.
both Sobu, where you can go for legs and eggs, for brunch on Sunday, and at Commander's Palace. So you can catch those great restaurant deals for just this continued weekend, and then it's all over, and it's fall, thank goodness, huh?
Ready for October.
So, Dickie, this is really thrilling to me to have you on Steppin Out. It's your first time, isn't it?
It is my first time, and I thought I'd bring some treats.
You brought treats?
Actually, Verna is bringing in one of our newest treats.
Hello, Verna. What has she got?
So, when we were in London last summer with Saints, we did a pop-up restaurant, and Wesley Jensen, who's our creative force, spent time with Hendrick's Gin and said, would you please create a cart for us that we could do tableside cocktails. So this is the first Hendrick's cart in America, and now when you go into Dickie Brennan Steakhouse, Verna can come right up to your table and make you these incredible martinis.
That is so fun. It's such an old-fashioned sort of thought to have a martini cart, isn't it?
And it's beautiful. It's these antique suitcases, and the refrigerated drawers come out the side. I think it needs to come to my house, but we're gonna leave it in the restaurant.
So tell me about what sort of martinis. I heard a rumor about something, I'm big on gold, and I heard there's something that has something to do with 24 carats.
Absolutely. The craft cocktail world is really taken off, but this is taking martinis to another level. So it's football season. The one Verna's going to make right now is our black and gold.
Okay.
And so classic gin martini with Hendrick's Gin. Then we'll put in a little vermouth and some Lillet, and just to give it a nice, very classic, smooth balance, and where you really can enjoy the gin. But then we garnish it with these incredible olives from Italy.
Yeah, what about those olives? Because usually we see green olives in martinis.
Well, these are they're black, and they're really large, and
there's a surprise, huh?
We'll see some here in a second.
Okay.
And then they're dusted with
look at that.
some 24 karat gold.
Oh my goodness.
So let's see what you think.
Thank you, Verna. Well,
in honor of our saints.
This is about the prettiest thing I've ever seen, and I love the way the gold comes off and floats on top of the martini.
Isn't it magnificent?
Oh my goodness! Oh, it is so that there is nothing like that wonderful scent of Hendrick's gin.
They make a fantastic gin. And it's flavored. Their specialty, most gins become flavored, and they use cucumber and rose, which really has become their signature. But it's wonderful to make these varieties.
That's that beautiful, beautiful bouquet that it has. And Dickie, what did you say is on the inside of these olives?
A seed.
Now, come on and tell me. There's no seed in there. What is that?
There's a seed in there.
It's caviar.
It's our Louisiana shoe-pick caviar.
Oh my goodness! There's the little.
A lot of seeds.
A lot of a lot of egg seeds, egg roe, fish seeds.
Right.
So you have a bunch of other varieties, huh?
We do. Boy, I tell you, we've done a politician.
And how's that go?
I'm not real.
It's the dirty martini, isn't it?
It's definitely dirty.
That is the best joke I ever heard. No. I'm a dirty martini girl, and I'll say in Louisiana, we know how to make them.
Well,
both politicians and martinis, huh?
Well, exactly, and we've had a lot of fun. The talent you find in the restaurant industry nowadays, and the professionals. It used to be a focus on chefs.
Yeah.
The spirits world has gone crazy, and these young professionals really are bringing us incredible quality experiences as opposed to just a lot of quantity. So real proud of Verna with these individuals are doing, but to be able to sit down in a restaurant and have these tableside drinks, I think it's exciting.
It's
and that's
so
the way
elegant. It's so exciting.
It reminds me of 2 Zulu coconuts, too.
Well, cheers, everyone. Cheers, 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 Dickie.
Cheers.
Thank you so much.
Oh, it's so nice to be here.
And
I hope
you brought us a little meat, I see.
Well, let me say, in the rest in peace, Rene Baggio.
Yes.
Several years ago,
what
Rene came on with us, and we said, take our charcuterie program, because it's become so popular throughout America, and it's these young chefs experimenting. Here was a master chef that really was an expert on this, set up a great charcuterie program for us. We continue to do this. Sid Cavello, my son Richard, every day they're in there just really trying to create these things from scratch. There's some guys raising Wagyu beef up in North Louisiana, cattlemen. So some of these, a classic Brazili is made from Louisiana Wagyu beef, as is this salami right here. This is a bologna. This is a mortadella with an olive, an olive.
It's gorgeous. And all this is at the steakhouse, huh?
We produce it there, and some of it gets farmed out, like this garnish right here is coming out of the charcuterie program.
Now, Dick, we need to talk about your passion project. Tell me, what is going to open in New Orleans in January?
In January.
Isn't that when your new project is coming down the pike?
Has it been released?
Yes, it has, and I think we got pictures and everything. Let's just show Dickie. Let's remind him what's coming. There you go, right there on Lee Circles. Tell us about your fantastic.
So Noki is this culinary hospitality institute that we've been working on for 5 years. When the Art Council building became available, we petitioned to let's put culinary arts into this wonderful downtown building. It's 2 historic buildings. This is the example of one of the classrooms, which is designed, it's a capstone where the students actually interact in a real restaurant scene. But we're going to be big on enthusiast programs. So let's just say Poppy wants to be a chef. We'll put a team with you. Come in, play chef tonight, which you can. I'm talking about maybe one of you guys.
Well, I
if
am
y'all
going
want to be a chef, so we're going to have a lot of fun with not only training the next professionals, we're going to do ongoing education for people in the industry, but we're really going to be a wonderful place for people who are enthusiasts that want to come interact with, and the Frank Brightsons, the Susan Spices, all these individuals, they love teaching, and, we just don't have this in New Orleans, so it's exciting. We're going to bring it to life.
I sat down with Carol yesterday, and we planned out some of my enthusiast classes.
I know.
So I'm very enthusiastic about your enthusiasm and your program, and I can't wait. It's so special because you're going to train people to go to, all you need is a high school diploma, and you're going to train people in a relatively short time to be highly highly skilled and go right out into the workforce.
And in addition to that, there'll be ongoing education. So a young kid in this city will be able to get a foundation. Then we'll be able to come back and take specialty if you want to be a charcuterie, if you want to be a chocolatier. So we'll have fantastic teachers teaching at the highest level. And we always say when someone comes to the city and they come into one of our restaurants, we have to Creolize them. When Emerald came here from Boston, we had to Creolize them. Well, part of what you can experience in this institute is being Creolized, and that's something you're working on. So,
Absolutely.
So when students do come, it's like when you're in Louisiana and you go to high school, you have to take Louisiana history. These students, these professionals will get a real taste of the history of the Louisiana food and culture, and thank you for helping us pull that together.
Oh, I am just so excited. I can't wait. And what more of a landmark spot could you be than right there on Lee Circle, the streetcars going around? I cannot wait. So
that's a great building, too.
It is. It is.
It's beautiful. It's two historic buildings,
Yeah.
and then they touch in the back,
Right.
and then they put in two newer structures to tie it together. So it's architecture. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
Has a huge atrium. I'm picturing, that we can teach couchon de lait on Fridays, and people in the neighborhood can come by after these students have roasted a pig and enjoy a great couchon de lait poor boy. So, the building lends itself to so much.
Well, it
nice
sounds
place.
great to me. And so, Dickie, here is to you and all of your restaurants and your fabulous new project, the New Orleans
Okay.
Culinary and Hospitality Institute. So here is to you. And now it's time for New Orleans Quiz Queen, Julia Street. She has a question for us. Last week, Nikki Andre gave us the names of one Amtrak passenger train that goes from New Orleans to LA and one that goes from New Orleans to Chicago. The answers are Sunset Limited and the City of New Orleans, respectively. And now tonight's question. Inspired by this weekend's Fried Chicken Festival, Popeye's Fried Chicken was named after a character from a movie. Who was the character and what was the movie? Email your answers to steppinout@wyes.org. Our prizes: a year's subscription to Louisiana Life magazine, a dish towel with the message "We be yammin" from our friends at Wearable Vegetables, and a $25 gift certificate to Kitchen Witch Cookbooks on North Broad Street. You can go to wyes.org for our online calendar to see our lineup of events, including Chris Champagne's ongoing comedy show next Friday night at Cello's, and Patrice McMurray at the Palmer Park Art Market next Saturday. You can also link to our WYES YouTube channel to see our program. And now, John.
Whoa, okay. Well, it's really interesting we're talking about the 50th anniversary of Commanders because there's a show at the Cabildo right now. It's called We Love You, New Orleans. And unlike many shows which explores the history of New Orleans from the beginnings, this is a tricentennial show. But it's more like 20th century, late 20th century New Orleans. And you go into the first floor and you go through what used to be the Cour de Garde. And it takes you through various aspects of New Orleans, life in New Orleans. One, the architecture, the amusements, nightlife, foodways, shopping in New Orleans. We'll show you a scene in a few minutes with the old Haspel seersucker suit. It takes you all through this area, and music, nightlife, all the singers of jazz, Mardi Gras, every aspect of New Orleans cultural life in the 20th century, primarily. And it's really based really for New Orleanians. If you're from out of town, you're not going to really recognize a lot of these images and objects and so forth. But it's really in two parts for New Orleanians: those over 65 and the rest of the crowd. 65, over 65, you walk through there and you recognize, Dixie beer backpacks. You recognize Regal beer signs. You recognize Bourbon Street and the old strip joints on Bourbon Street. You recognize D.H. Holmes, Maison Blanche. So it's kind of memory lane for those who lived that period.
I had an opportunity to see the show
Oh,
the
did you?
other
Good,
evening,
good.
and it was so refreshing. I loved the quotes that were up on the walls.
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
To me, it was a really fresh new look to see at the Cabildo State Museum. Everything looked shiny and new.
Yeah, and, in most shows, and for instance, earlier this year they had a really good show, again a tricentennial show, talking about the Spanish influence in New Orleans from colonial times to the present. This takes it up to the present, where people actually know what you're looking at, and these are things that are no longer there for the most part. And I think anyone's going to really enjoy this walking through. So Commanders, to talk about Commanders is really appropriate because it could have been in this show too, very well.
I loved the Tujague's waiter's jacket on the wall too. You know, I'm a big Tujague's fan, and it was every single memento was so special, especially to us New Orleanians.
Yes, it is. And if out of town, well, you might learn something about New Orleans, but this show is really for New Orleanians. You really enjoy that. And there's another show. Remember the Contemporary Arts Center down in the Arts District? That was at one time the center of contemporary art in New Orleans. Well, there's a couple, Herman Crone and Christina Jurin. Back down the Bywater section after Katrina, they opened the New Orleans Arts Center, which is sort of a contemporary art center on St. Claude Avenue. And it really has been the anchor for New Orleans artists, many of whom are known, you see in the galleries and on Julia Street. But for the most part, it's one of the few places New Orleans artists, these new, younger and upcoming artists, have a place to show their work. And Christina and Herman are doing a great job in just going out and finding these artists and bringing them in for their contemporary art shows on Julia Street. They're really doing a great job. And Christina herself is a pretty good artist. She has a series of paintings there now on coastal Louisiana. But there's one particular artist I really enjoy, perhaps stands out to me. His name is Larry Neville. He does a lot of New Orleans street scenes in New Orleans. He's kind of funky jazz looking stuff down the Bywater in the lower Ninth Ward area. It's really
It's a big gallery space.
It's huge. I mean, it reminds me of the old Contemporary Arts Center. We used to walk into the old building there, the old K&B ice cream place and the old Picayune item building, and just walk around, this stuff hanging all over the place. But this is like that, but they do a nice job in putting these shows together.
It's also been used for theater spaces, too. Yeah. Lizzie was presented there.
It's amazing to go down on St. Claude these days.
Oh, I go down there quite a bit now. I like these little restaurants and cafes you find back in there, and it's you're exploring your own city once again. And it's really been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed that.
Lots of cutting-edge restaurants down that way.
Some little galleries, little funky galleries down there, and some really good art galleries. And a lot of really young, creative people coming from all over the country and settling down in that area.
It's a really vibrant part of town.
I love to go to the cafe and sit out there and just watch these people. They remind me of back in the 60s.
It is. It's very much.
It really is. A new generation of 60s. It's great. I enjoy it. Yeah.
Thank you, John. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And now it's time for our Artist Spotlight. Tonight we're showcasing the art of visual artist Andrew Wapinski. This is Untitled 7. He achieves his art by melting ice, hand-ground coal, and dust. And this, Untitled 8. An exhibition of his work titled Transmutation will be on view through September 30th at the Callan Contemporary Gallery. Also, check out the Artist Gallery Talk with Peg Usner at Longview House and Gardens this Saturday. And now, Alan. TheaterCriticism.com,
Yes.
Alan.
Last week was the opening of Rivertown Theaters for the Performing Arts opening for their season, of course. And they did so with the classic 1957 Meredith Willson, The Music Man. Now, as many of us can attest, The Music Man has a big score with songs like 76 Trombones and Trouble and Wells Fargo Wagon and Shapoopy. It practically demands a huge orchestra. And so we were promised by the artistic directors at Rivertown that they would deliver and not have the canned music, that they actually, were going to hire a full band to accompany the players on stage. But last Friday, we got the notice from Kelly Fucci as the director of the show and half of its producing team, Gary Rucker being the other half. They decided that the orchestra that was not in place at that time was not going to really work out. And in the interest of putting on the best show on stage, that they decided that they would take the bold step of letting the orchestra go and staying with the tape music that they had been working with. So I'm not going to get into the decision about whether it was right or wrong, or whether it was handled properly, but I will be glad to say that despite all of the problems, and some of the nagging comes from people like me, they did decide to go ahead with the tape music, and I feel that they really advanced a really wonderful show. It was a great pairing for all of those who are on stage, and I'm going to say I'm very grateful because despite this little bit of controversy, it's truly a great production at Rivertown, whether it has a live orchestra or not. Mark Fucci, of course, makes it a truly family affair. He's, of course, married to Kelly, and their kids are in it. He plays Professor Harold Hill, and he has the patter and the swagger of a traveling salesman come confidence man. But I can expound his many virtues, ad nauseum, if you will, but he really does handle that part very well. But I really have to insist on talking about his co-star. Attention must be paid to Rachel Looney. Rachel sang at Summer Lyric this past summer in the Bernstein Centennial. She was classically trained, and she has a voice that's just like a bell. Why is it like a bell? Because it has a lot of appeal. Indeed, when she sings Till There Was You, My White Knight, Will I Ever Tell You, and we had her on the show last week, you know, she does that with that Southern Tradition Quartet, the barbershop quartet singers. There's no doubt she has command of the show. Adam Seagrave as Marcellus Washburn, David Hoover as Mayor Shin are also both excellent. Seagrave, of course, leads the singing for Shapoopy, and really great scenic designs by, of course, Shelby Mack. Eric Porter's set's great. There's lots of songs, lots of coursework. I would say that if they were going to work on anything in the show, it might be to work on that, but you know, they've got a huge cast, 36 people on stage at any one time. Again, barbershop quartet singing. If you like that, you'll love that wonderful barbershop singing that's in Ice Cream Sincere, It's You, and Lida Rose, and also the ladies, of course, led by Lizette Bale, who do Pick a Little, Talk a Little, if you remember that. The Music Man runs through September the 30th. Keep that in mind at Rivertown Theaters. And there are very few seats that are left. It is, you know, playing for a good reason to packed houses. Meanwhile, let's go over to the World War II Museum, because at BB's Stage Door Canteen, there's a lot of picking and plucking going on. And that's, they're turning out pies and food at the latest production, which is, of course, Pump Boys and Dinettes. Now, Pump Boys are led by Todd D'Amore as Jackson on rhythm guitar, Alex Barnes on lead guitar, Clint Johnson as LM on the piano, and Sam Camarada as Eddie on bass. Yes, they do play, they do sing, and of course they carry on even with some kitchen utensils, believe it or not, Dickie. The Dinettes are led by Carolyn Formey. We may remember her from the Patsy Cline, Always Patsy Cline show that they did over there not too long ago. The Cup sisters, Retta and Prudy, are played by Carolyn and Catherine Bolter, and of course they are the Double Cup Diner. There they are. This is a show with really down-home appeal, lots of fun, and songs about things like fishing and Highway 57, where the diner's located. Clint Johnson, by the way, is great on piano with The Night Dolly Parton Was Almost Mine. It's a great song. Todd D'Amore also holds nothing back on Mona. So while this is an off-Broadway show back in the 80s, it still holds up very well, and I especially love the song Tips by the Cup Sisters. Don't miss this show, really, if you want. It's only got 2 more weekends at BB's Stage Door Canteen. They, of course, have options for brunch or possibly dinner, so keep that in mind. Meanwhile, the Jefferson Performing Arts Society is opening Sheer Madness. Now, this is a murder mystery that sort of takes place in a hair salon, a unisex hair salon, and it's being shown at the Westwego Performing Arts Center. The audience, of course, participates. Every night is different because of the audience participation. The show is billed, by the way, as the longest non-musical show running in America. Apparently, it opened in Boston in 1963, and it's still running after 12,000 plus of performances. Sheer Madness is on weekends till the October 28th date, and again, that's going to be the Westwego Performing Arts Theater. And also, coming up, Michael McKelvey is presenting the Laramie Project, very close to the 20th anniversary of the kidnapping and beating death of Matthew Shepard in Laramie, Wyoming. The play will star Eli Tim, and it's being presented at the Timothy Baker Theater on the Delgado Community Campus. I hope that people get a chance to see that. And next week, do not forget, I strongly urge everyone to get to Agrabah. Come for the hummus, but stay for the floor show. That's Disney's Aladdin, and they'll be opening at the Sanger for an extended run till October the 7th. I'm going to have a review next week, and again, I would really recommend, having seen the original cast on Broadway, that this is a show you do not want to miss. It's one of Disney's best ever, and it basically has such a great track record because of the fact it's still doing great box office, 1.9 million per week, it seems like, on Broadway. So, you know, you're in store for a really great show. Get to the Sanger.
Well, I'm sure you're like me. Any of us who raised children during the 80s and the 90s, and I bet you know the whole soundtrack by heart, don't you?
Pretty much. But there are actually extra new songs that they've added to it, and the choreography is something to be seen. They really have a lot of moving parts, and those of you who saw the splendor of the animation will be really pleased with what they did on the stage.
Oh, I can't wait. Thank you, Alan. And now it's time for our picks. John.
Go first, let's see. At the those who enjoy landscape painting at Carol Robinson Gallery on the corner of Napoleon and Magazine, paintings by Curtis Stewart Johnson. He's a landscape painter from Ocean Springs and does a lot of work on the Gulf Coast over there. another show just down Magazine Street at the New Orleans Academy of Fine Arts. It's called Responsorial, the Second Sex and Contemporary Dialectics of Misogyny.
Oh my goodness, that's a mouthful, John.
It is. It is by guest curator Saskia Ozols-Eubanks. And it's 39 artists from all over the country developing this theme. It's both art, dealing with art, but a very intellectual and complex approach to the subject matter.
Now, Dickie, what is your pick of the week? Maybe the Saints are going to win?
How about Fried Chicken Festival?
Fried Chicken Festival, that's a good one. And then you're still serving those black and gold oysters at the Bourbon House, too, aren't you?
It's all about the Saints right now. And did anyone try their olive?
Oh, isn't this something? Well, first, before we get to eating, because we're going to have some of that very shortly, it's time for my picks, Dickie.
Excellent.
So, and now for my picks. The 9th annual Salon de Gens d'Art Conference is tomorrow in the Stone Auditorium at Tulane University's Waldenberg Art Museum. Admission is free. The Delta Festival Ballet is having a costume sale tomorrow at the Jacoby Academy of Dance on Veterans in Metairie. Author and professor Walter Isaacson will be giving a free talk titled New Orleans as Muse for Literature at the Cabildo tomorrow. RSVP is mandatory. There'll also be another lecture on Sunday by author John Bigonnet about the short story A Rose for Emily at St. Mary's Chapel at the Ursuline Convent Garden on Charter Street. Both lectures are part of the Faulkner Society's Happy Birthday, Mr. Faulkner event. And finally, tune into the Food Network this Sunday night to see Chef Isaac Toups in the upcoming special Kitchen Takeover. In it, Chef Toups tries to save a struggling cafe in Burbank, California. Thanks for watching, but wait.
Yes.
What about your pick,
I have
Alan?
a couple of picks. First off, don't forget Turandot next weekend. The opera is going to be on stage Friday and Sunday, and that'll be, of course, at the Mahalia Jackson. But also, I don't want everybody to forget These Shining Lives. This is about the ladies who did the clock dials with the radium that were encouraged to lick the brushes. It's about the horrible conditions that they endured, etc. And it's going to be at Loyola University, and just for a short run through September the 29th. That'll be at the underground stage. All right?
Thank you,
all right.
Alan. And now, you see, I'm so distracted because Dickie's brought all of this lovely meat for us to eat. So how about let's have some eating? Are you ready?
Always.
And Dickie, this martini. You all have a taste of this one. The truffle one is so fragrant. It's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for watching, and good night.